Right now, as you watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, you are privileged to watch Guy Lafleur of the Canadiens, the man many say is the finest hockey player in the world today. He is tremendous when it comes to scoring goals and lighting the red light. A look at the many talents of Guy Lafleur.
Et ensuite jusqu'à Lafleur, belle feinte et ensuite il poursuit sa course au but et s'il marque. Un but spectaculaire, un des plus beaux de l'année.
It was all there in those moments of exquisite anticipation. The acceleration up the right wing, those smooth, powerful strides, and of course, the hair. In the days before hockey players became anonymous helmeted warriors, blown back as if by a Hollywood wind machine. No one called it a flow in those days, but his was the granddaddy of them all, suggestive of only one thing: speed. From the stands in the Montreal Forum, the chant would begin, like a collective pulse, building in intensity towards a glorious climax. Guy, Guy, Guy.
Sometimes one has talent and one is good at what one is doing. There is always a tendency to coast along. But you seem to continue to be hard on yourself.
Yes, because hockey, it's only 15, 20 years. And I want to be the best, that's why.
You want to be the best?
Yes.
Aren't you the best?
So far.
The Club d'Hockey Canadien has its own pantheon, a gallery of icons who came to represent the team's eras of greatness. Tragic Howie Morenz in the 20s and 30s, fiery Rocket Richard in the 50s, stately Jean Beliveau in the 60s, operatic Patrick Roy in the 80s. And the greatest player on arguably the greatest Canadiens teams of them all in the 1970s, Guy Lafleur.
Looking at the decade of the 70s, I don't think there was another player, a skater for sure. Obviously, Guy as a forward was number one in that era.
Long gone by then, in theory, were the days when the Canadiens controlled by birthright all of the best players from the province of Quebec. There was a draft, and the two worst teams by record at the conclusion of the 1970-71 season, the California Golden Seals and the Detroit Red Wings, would normally have had their choice of not one, but two Quebec-born prodigies, Lafleur and Marcel Dionne. Lafleur had become a star in his home province before he became a teenager, dominating the famous Quebec Pee Wee tournament 3 years in a row. He graduated to the Junior Quebec Rampart, and in his final remarkable season, won the Memorial Cup and scored 130 goals in 62 regular season games. To see him in a Golden Seal sweater would have been, well, unnatural. But that's what would have happened, but for the genius of Sam Pollock.
From the Quebec Ramparts, Guy Lafleur.
The Canadiens' general manager pulled off what is remembered as one of the most lopsided deals in NHL history, swapping first-round picks with California the year before and throwing in veteran Ernie Hickey as a bonus. Pollock knew who was coming. After some deliberation, he chose Lafleur over Dionne, and for the first few seasons, that seemed like a terrible mistake. Dionne was immediately an elite NHL scorer, while Lafleur chafed under coach Scotty Bowman, who kept him away from the top lines in the power play, and wilted under the tremendous burden of being anointed as Beliveau's successor. Following his rookie season, he didn't receive a single vote for the Calder Trophy.
Guy, for me, he had a few hard times like everybody else like me when we started with Montreal Canadiens because sometimes we don't play enough. And that's what happened to Guy. But the first practice I saw him with Montreal Canadiens, I said, wow, what a player that's going to be.
Lafleur won his first of 5 Stanley Cups with the Habs in 1973. But it was the 1974-75 season that represented his real breakthrough. The first of 6 consecutive seasons in which he scored 50 or more goals and ascended to the level of stardom to which he had long seemed destined.
I think for any kid growing up in the 70s in Montreal, and to see the Montreal Canadiens win Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup, and having Guy, the best player in the world, and the excitement that he brought to the game. He was my idol, and always wanted to be like him, play like him, and do some of the plays that he did, and certainly enjoyed watching him in the 70s.
3-on-2, Montreal breaks. Lafleur shooting.
That collection of Canadians won 4 consecutive Stanley Cups between 1976 and 1979. Lafleur led the league in scoring for 3 of those seasons, and twice won the Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player. He had finally earned his place among the immortals.
There's something about Guy when he speaks, everyone listens in Quebec, and he's still, he's above the word legend over there. Every uncle I had, my grandpa, everyone that you know, he means so much to the people over there. I think people took it for granted how many times they won the cup there, you know. Now you realize how hard it was. So I think because of that, the legend's even gotten bigger and bigger. You know, there's something, like people that were living in that era now can go back and realize how lucky they were.
It ended badly for Lafleur in Montreal, just as it would for Roy years later. The Habs dynasty was long finished by 1985, and Lafleur's skills had significantly eroded. Jacques Lemaire was coaching the team, and his defense-first philosophy was antithetical to Lafleur's attacking nature. He asked to be traded, but general manager Serge Savard knew that the fans would never forgive him if he did. Left with what he believed was no alternative, Lafleur retired 19 games into the season. He finished and remains the all-time leading point scorer in Canadiens history.
Well, I never doubted in my mind that I was not able to score 40 or 50 goals again. It's tough enough to read the paper or heard people talking when you're going to get out of your slump, things like that. So that's why I decided to retire. It's one of the reasons why.
By the time he returned for a late career swan song with the New York Rangers and Quebec Nordique 3 years later, Lafleur had already been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. The only others on that list, Gordie Howe and Mario Lemieux. But for flashes, he was no longer the player burned into so many memories. Still, if you closed your eyes and used your imagination, you could conjure him up. You could remember those nights at the Forum when he got the puck and flew down the wing and the crowd rose expecting magic.